Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Nick here, and welcome to or welcome back to the channel. 2024 is finally here, and it's already kind of crazy. It's already 2024. Back in November, I posted on the community tab an Ask Me Anything so I could do another Q&A session with you guys. First off, I'd like to say thank you all for the questions, and I think this is just a fun way to kind of just update, kind of talk about some future projects I have planned in the pipeline, and just other things you'd like to know about me. This is going to be similar to the one I did a few years ago, which if you haven't checked that out, I'll put a card up above. I'll go through the comments that you had left behind and I'll give a quick answer or just an in-depth answer for each of these questions. Some of these will be very serious and some of these will be cheeky fun, so let's have fun with it. Before we get into it, I am going to apologize in advance. I did want to do this Q&A in front of a camera, but because the holidays are just over and my office is still kind of packed from the holidays, along with me being sick currently, I just wanted to do this over a recording. So if you want to know why I sounded off or I don't have footage of myself, you know why. Allergies and seasonal change really messes with me. So without further ado, let's get into the questions. Our first question comes from Benjamin Almazan. Will you ever do an intro and outro ranking for MK1? Now for this, do you mean by intro animations, like when they clash away, and then the victory animations? I think that would be a fun little list to do, maybe a quickie or something like that. I am very open to new ideas, new rankings. I feel like this year is definitely going to be focused on diversity and creating new content, new rankings outside of just finishers and supers of Mortal Kombat, but also other fighting games, and I think getting a little interesting with it and doing intros and outros is not a bad idea. Our next question comes from Ace of Horns. How old are you? Well, I guess you can say I'm old enough to have my quarterly life crisis, which answer is I'm actually 25 years old and I'm turning 26 later in March. Boy on the Dark. Favorite guest character in all of fighting games outside of Spawn and Predator and MKX and MK11. If there is a guest character who was plucked from their series and put into another fighting game, I'd say it's Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII and Super Smash Bros. Sure, he's another sword fighter, but how they just adapted him with all of his special moves and even including limit breakers, even some of the references and the stage that he has, it being Midgard, it's just so awesome. That character alone being added in Smash Bros. Is what got me to play Super Smash Bros. 4 and Ultimate quite a ton. He's actually one of my go-to mains, and if you look at my YouTube banner, that's why he's on there. He's one of my go-tos. So outside of Predator and Spawn, Cloud Strife is definitely one of my favorite guest characters of all time. Debucktooth one. Which YouTubers were your inspirations that inspired you to make YouTube videos? Now there are plenty of YouTubers that have inspired me, so you were right assuming that there were multiple. But when it came to my editing style, I would say the big one is definitely Sean Chandler Talks About Anything. What inspired me to do the finisher rankings was actually his Marvel movies ranked, which I've never seen anyone do anything like that with Mortal Kombat or fighting games, so I thought, why not do that? He was a huge inspiration for not only presentation and editing styles. Along with that, Maximilian Dude is probably the biggest inspiration, who not only got me into fighting games, but also got me into my love of discussing fighting games, wanting to get more in depth with them, along with his Rate the Super series. That was a huge inspiration to the channel, but instead I ended up going with the ranking form, so instead of giving everything a score, I like putting it in an order and describing my points more in depth. So I guess if you want to get the Spark Notes version, I would say Maximilian Dude and Sean Chandler were my two big inspirations for this channel. This user asks, what's your favorite arcade ending from MK1? Now I haven't finished the ladder mode with every single character in the game, but the one that really stuck out to me most was probably Scorpion's, as it has a fun little history repeating itself, where you have him creating the Shirai Ryu, and then you have him forming along it with Smoke, and then you have him kind of, as I mentioned, it rhymes, repeating itself. He's going up against Sub-Zero again. It's like that Scorpion Sub-Zero, that rivalry will never die, and that ending just kind of establishes that again in this new timeline. If you could pick one guest character that you know it would be impossible for MK to get, who would it be? Thank you for the question, Mojojo, and I would say the impossible character I would love to make possible is Ash Williams. Now I know we almost got him in MK11, but the reason I think he is definitely going to be a impossible character is that each of the movies in the Evil Dead franchise are owned by different studios, so meaning that Evil Dead 1's owned by someone different, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, vice versa. It's actually one of the biggest issues I learned about the Ash versus the Evil Dead series is that they weren't allowed to mention Army of Darkness at all, and even if you look at the email listing when Ash was quote-unquote leaked, it was showing that the licensing was for Army of Darkness, meaning we would have just got one version of Ash Williams. But my dream would be to have all versions of Ash Williams. Chainsaw Hand, Bionic Hand, the hand from the show, maybe like the weird fleshy chainsaw hand he gets from the TV show as well. I'd just like to see like an Ash Williams covering every single version of himself. I think that would be awesome. Still makes me angry that we never got him in the game though. Thabo asked the question, what's your relationship status? I'm currently taken at the moment and I am very happy in my relationship. Just Thunder, I don't know, what's an underrated fighting game that you like? Well, looking at your profile picture, it definitely screams one that I wish more people knew about, and that's Def Jam Fight for New York. That was a game my older brother and I would play on our PS2. Super fun, a lot of fun memories, and it got me into a lot of hip-hop artists and music, so I wish more people played it and I wish it was available on more modern platforms, but because it is a licensing nightmare, I don't think it'll happen, so fingers crossed there. That is definitely an underrated one I wish more people knew about. Spring Speed asks 2 questions. The old Mortal Kombat Fatalities ranked, will those get a remake? And the second question, which Sub-Zero is your favorite, Kuai Liang or Bi-Han? So to answer your first question, this is actually something I've been wanting to announce for some time. Ever since MK1 came out, I really wanted to remake some of the old original rankings I've done. For an example, all Scorpion finishers ranked that came out in 2021 does not hold up in my opinion. The editing style is so different, how I write is different, I sound very different in that original video compared to how I present myself now. So yes, the first set of characters that I ever covered on the channel definitely deserve remakes, so stay tuned for more updates regarding that. And for the second question, do I like Bi-Han or Kuai Liang more? I'd say I had more of a connection with Kuai Liang. For one, he's been Sub-Zero more times than Bi-Han has, so I feel like I've had a lot more of an attachment with that Sub-Zero in general. Another question from King Monkey asks, other than rankings, do you have any other plans for the channel? Yes, so as I've mentioned earlier, this is the year that I want to start diversifying the content a little bit more. Outside of rankings, I've actually planned on continuing doing more reactions and kind of doing more trailer breakdowns again. That's something I haven't really done too much of. Those really don't get a whole lot of views, but I want to keep trying and provide my perspective on it. And speaking of perspective, I'd love to do more opinion videos and kind of doing news updates with some of my thoughts and opinions on it. Similar to what I did with the whole Homelander not being voiced by Anthony Starr. I guess a good way to put it, I want to do more videos that provide a fun discussion where I want you to join me in on this and maybe hear more of my opinions on the fighting game industry and so on. So yeah, I want to diversify content mainly with either opinion-based videos, reactions, and more. So stay tuned on that. We have a question from Reptosaurus King. Have you thought of any other guest character options that could work for Mortal Kombat? It could be a big list, and for me personally, I could see Marvel characters in an MK game sometime in the future. Yes, I do see more options. I did that one video last December covering guest picks that I'd love to see, and I think there are a few more I would love to see make it into the game. Now I know that Mortal Kombat has a tendency of including movie characters as guest characters, but I'd like to see them kind of go back into doing guest characters from video games. I think a character like Nemesis from Resident Evil would work perfect, Raiden from Metal Gear Rising, Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden, or if they really wanted to get fun and creative with it, V from Cyberpunk. I feel like if they wanted to tap into the game industry, there would be endless possibilities of characters that could join Mortal Kombat, so I don't see why they don't. We've got 2 from the trash can. What are some of your favorite video game soundtracks, and what do you consider to be the worst game you've ever played? Now when it comes to my favorite video game soundtracks of all time, I would say Doom Eternal is definitely one of them, which, a little fun fact, during my marathon that I did, I actually ran to a lot of the songs from the soundtrack because it kept me on pace. Along with that, I'd say Metal Gear Rising soundtrack is amazing, Hades is wonderful, Final Fantasy VII has a few good bangers on there, and if I had to go with fighting games, Killer Instinct 2013, my favorite fighting game soundtrack of all time. Now when it comes to the worst game I ever played, I don't pursue playing bad games, so some of the obvious ones like Action 52 or Superman 64 aren't really ones that I wanted to go out and play. I just know they're bad just based off a lot of videos I've seen people talk about. But if there's one that I remember, even when I was a kid, I knew this game was bad, I would say it's Spyro the Dragon, Enter the Dragonfly. What makes this hurt most was when I was a kid, I played Spyro 1, 2, and 3, and I was looking forward to this one. So when I played it, I immediately put it down after 10 minutes, and I thought this game was absolutely a dumpster fire. It was so terrible. It almost killed my love for Spyro until the Reignited trilogy came out. If a game has the power to kill my love for a franchise, that's definitely one of the worst games I could play, and that is Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. Longtime Whack Pack member Anoni Scott asks, what's your favorite fatality in Mortal Kombat? This is a pretty hard one to answer, as because I am the guy who ranks fatalities a lot. Ones that I'm about to mention are some of my favorites in all of the games. But this is a tie between two different characters from the same game. But I'd say it's between Scorpions from MK11 Chain Reaction, where he throws a spear at their chest, flips around him, and splits them in half. Shot well, paced well, just fits the character to a T. And then the second, also from MK11, is Sub-Zero's Frozen in Time, where he slides, they fall on the clone of himself with a spear, and then he reaches in their stomach and rips out their spine with their head. It's a great way to modernize the spine rip with a bunch of icy elements. Now, I know I did put in my ranking the spine rip over that one, but I'd say that one's my favorite, but I know that the spine rip is the best fatality. But I'd say it's a tie between Frozen in Time and Chain Reaction from MK11, two of my favorite fatalities. Howling Cerberus asked the question, have you ever thought about making something like a Patreon or Ko-Fi so people have the option to support you? Wonderful question, and I've actually wanted to talk about this for quite some time. Ever since MK1's videos have been very challenging and have been being age restricted, even if I censor it or blur out stuff, I've thought about this as an option. If I were to do this, I was thinking about doing a Patreon where all of the uncensored videos, like not even being done on Reptile or Devora, would be posted on Patreon along with like more in-depth analysis, so you're getting more out of it. And then like the YouTube form would be the safe version, so you get like some blurred out stuff, it's safe for YouTube, and it won't put me on YouTube's bad side. I know a lot of people have been complaining when I have been putting blurs in there, and they thought that it's just ruining the point of covering the fatalities in general, but the reason I have to put the blurs in there is because I don't get recommended on people's YouTube feeds, so I think that if I can have the channel grow by doing with that method, and if I wanted to have everything fully unfiltered through another format, and if people really wanted to see it, I could do it through Patreon. I do think like extra time and energy to make two of the same video for different platforms would be a nice reward. I've thought about this for quite some time, so I will keep you updated on any Patreon updates down the line. I'll research it a little bit more, and I will let you know about what I decide to do. We got a question from Weird Man. Who do you think is the most underrated Mortal Kombat character? One that does not get enough attention, and I know a lot of it has to do with how to depict the character, which is why they're not in a lot of the games, not playable in many of the games, and that's Nightwolf. I always thought he had a sick design, even like when he was very stereotyped back in MK3, and then they finally like did him justice in MK11. It got to the point where it's like, I just want to see Nightwolf in MK1, but the title being given to someone completely different. As implied in Nightwolf's ending in MK11, multiple people have had the title of Nightwolf, so I'd love to see who got the title in that timeline. I also always like had a nice bond and connection with him, as I am someone who is Native American. I just think that having a character who is well represented in some of the games, it's just an easy way for me to bond with them. So Nightwolf is my favorite underrated MK character. Now on the opposite spectrum, that kid in the fish stick mess asked the question, who is your least favorite Mortal Kombat character in the entire franchise? I'd say my absolute least favorite has to be Jarek, the replacement to Kano in MK4. He literally has the same moves, he has very similar fatalities, and it's just to the point, why didn't you bring Kano back? He's Diet Kano, he's just the lame version that no one cares about. What makes him infamous is just the ending in MK4, which I promise my girlfriend and I will react to sometime down the line. I know Suhao isn't great either, but here's the thing, Suhao at least has a cool original fatality in MK Deadly Alliance. Jarek just sucks, and I've always hated him since day one. We've got a question from Octavio, what's your favorite pizza? And the question, what's your guilty pleasure fatality in the games? Now for my favorite pizza, one of my favorites has to be one that a friend of mine and I went to in Detroit called Pie-Sai, and they had this really nice vegan pizza that has all of these wonderful vegetables on it. I'm honestly forgetting what the pizza is called, but it's on their vegan menu, so I would say if you're in the Detroit area and want to check out Pie-Sai, check it out, it's really good. And now for my guilty pleasure fatality, as much as I mess on it, I would say Kano's knee drop fatality in MK vs DC. I always like to tell people, oh, you want to see the most violent fatality in Mortal Kombat ever? And I show them that and just try to get a good laugh out of it. As horrible as it is, you can make a good joke out of it. We've got the Brodador that asks, do you think that it's possible for it to go too far when it comes to the violence in Mortal Kombat? I've seen a couple people who feel that the new games have gone a bit too far, and I want to know your perspective. I know that was one of my biggest concerns that I almost made a discussion video on the channel, is if Mortal Kombat did a game off Unreal 5, is that going to be a problem for the industry as a whole? We already know that it's a challenge with YouTubers covering these games where you have to either heavily color correct, blur, cut out the fatalities in general because YouTube will think that it's real people that's getting killed. I've even jokingly said, and actually it's not a joke because it was serious, I just said it in a joking manner, that I feel bad with some of the fatalities because the face models look so real. It's like, oh geez, I feel like I'm killing a real character. And even with the recent MK1, a lot of the intestines look accurate, and even the screams and despair they have, even like doing some simple like fatality recordings, honestly takes a lot longer than it should. I honestly have to take a few breaks in between them because it's like, oh geez, like I'm just looking at people getting killed over and over and over again, and honestly that's kind of hard to watch sometimes. So I do agree with you that it is becoming a little too realistic. I would say if they wanted to tone it down and maybe do like a different art style, maybe something like in the vein of Samurai Showdown, where another very bloody game, but that has such a unique art style where it's like ink sprays of blood instead, which is, you get the idea that it's violent, but it's not realistic. Maybe that would be something interesting for like a spin-off, or if they wanted to tone down the fatalities in a way, or make them less graphic. I know that the team is very specific, and the one direction they go with all of the fatalities is that we want to make them over the top, but not realistic, where they can't be replicated, which I do fully support that idea. I fully support that mindset when it comes to these fatalities, because if they are realistic, then I feel like that's a problem. From Venom Bash, I have a few questions. One, aside from Kano's knee stop, what is your least favorite fatality? Question number 2, which fatality has your opinion changed the most on for the better? And then question number 3, what is your favorite Killer Instinct character? Now for the first one, outside of Kano's knee stomp fatality, I would honestly say any of the rip-off fatalities where they're just doing something that someone else has already done. For an example, like Scorpion's head rip from MK Deception, it's just a rip-off from Sub-Zero's spine rip. I would also say the same for both of Goro's fatalities and MK4. They're both something that Johnny Cage and Reiko have done. Aside from the knee stomp, I'd say it's just rip-off fatalities. Now when it comes to a fatality that changed better, or one that grew on me, honestly I'd say it's the self-destruct fatalities. Back when I did Sub-Zero finishers ranked, I said that I didn't like the self-destruct fatality that Cyber Sub-Zero did, and I also mentioned that they are not really my favorite. However, they slowly started to grow on me a little bit, as some of them have a fun presentation, such as Cyrax from MK1, zooming out and showing the world blowing up. It's just goofy, but it's like, it's fun, it's funny, that's what it's going for. I guess you could say I can admit it's a blast now. And then now for the third question, what is your favorite Killer Instinct character? One I wasn't expecting anyone to ask, and I would say it's either between Jago or Shadow Jago. Jago was the first character I played as in Killer Instinct 3, and it's actually my main, and then I would say probably Shadow Jago, because I just liked a lot of his mix-ups, his teleporting, and just his weird like Shadow Instinct and Shadow Surge that he has. He's also a character that I have in my bookshelf right behind me, as you can see. From Joel Mitsu and Yoshi, is mayonnaise an instrument? And to which I say yes, along with horseradish. From Nico's, who is your favorite character with a trapper playstyle? Now if I have to stick with the series I'm very familiar with, I'd have to go with MK2 Sub-Zero with the ice clones. He also has the ice puddle, so he can really mix people up good, so when they get up, they actually start slipping, and then he can freeze people again. I'd say that's probably one of my go-tos. Outside of the Mortal Kombat series, I would probably say it would be Rocket Raccoon from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Just the weird like digging in the ground he can do with the burrows, setting up the mines and stuff like that. Man, now you make me want to play MVC again. Maybe cover it on the channel sometime soon. From Noob, who would you play as if Sub-Zero was not in the roster for MK1? I'd probably have to go with either Liu Kang or Johnny Cage. I'm slowly getting the hang of them both, and I'm actually really liking them a lot. I'd probably say that Johnny Cage is probably in my pocket as of right now. From Joestar, I'll ask simple common questions. Top 3 characters based on concept and design, your top 3 characters of MK based on story and execution, and top 5 Fatal Blow and X-Rays of all time. And thanks for the wonderful comment below too, that really means a ton to me. Now when it comes to design, in no particular order, MK Deception Sub-Zero, Shaolin Monk's Reptile, and third would be just Kenshi overall. They nail his design in every single game. When it comes to characters based on their story and progression, I'd say I really like the progression that Liu Kang has had over the entire series, going from student to dead, back to being a student, to with a little bit of arrogance against Raiden, to finally accepting and being with Raiden, to now being a god mentoring others. And now the other two, probably the most two redeemed characters, is Baraka and Reptile. How much Mortal Kombat 1 fixed these characters and made me care about them is just astronomical. Making Baraka go from just being a jobber into being a victim of Tarkat, and actually making him relatable, trying to find a cure and trying to fight for hope, or just die trying, is definitely something insane. I like how he fights for that cause. And then Reptile just blindly helping Shang Tsung and being told lies that he's working to get his family is also something nice, and you actually kind of feel sympathetic for him instead of just being another jobber. Now when it comes to my top 5 Fatal Blows and X-Rays in all of the games, I really love Shang Tsung's from MK11, where he turns into all of the other ninjas and does iconic moves. That one's always awesome. Two of them that I really love from MKX is Cassie Cage's Ball Buster and Aaron Black's I Have a Bullet with Your Name on It were both awesome. From MK1, I loved Cameo Scorpion's super move. That one was just an awesome way to utilize the Inferno Scorpion aspect. And then another favorite of mine off the top of my head is Sectors from MK9, where he shoots the missile at you and teleports where you're flying into and then does that palm strike to your spine. I just love the sound design and I love the flow of it. From Draco Scorpio, which female MK character is your waifu? Easy, that is Sonya Blade, mainly because of Bridget Wilson from the 1995 movie. From Michaelis, how do you feel about Mortal Kombat Legends Cage Match? I hate to break it to you, I haven't actually seen that yet. After I watch it, I'll probably do all MK Legends movies ranked. From there, you'll get more of my opinions about the movie. From Lego Master, why do you hate Strikers so bad or so much? I always just found him kind of a generic character, especially for Mortal Kombat, which is really saying a lot. In a world full of like martial artists, cyber ninjas, sorcerers, special forces with weird augmentations, you just have a cop with a gun. He never really had much of a lasting impact on me in MK3. Sure, his one explosive finisher was kind of fun, but I also thought the taser fatality was honestly like bottom tier. And then when it came to MK Armageddon, they tried turning him into a SWAT guy who all he does is just punch Melina in the opening story. And then they really tried hard to make him cool in Mortal Kombat 9 by like making him like a super cop and making him like super epic and taking on the big threats, being on the front lines. Like they were really overcompensating. It reminded me of when DC tried making Aquaman cool again. He's one of my least favorite legacy characters, I would say, but I am happy that he returned as like a cameo because honestly, he did make up for a lot of my hatred because he's actually a good cameo if you pair him with Omni-Man. So for the longest time, didn't like him, but I like more of what he became now. From Target CJ, Dear Mr. Knickknack, also I love the surname there, would you rather choose and voice the next guest character of MK1 or rewrite Mortal Kombat Annihilation? I would say I'm not a voice actor. It's honestly something I've tried pursuing and I thought it'd be fun to do. If anyone needs my voice for like a production or anything, please hit me up. But I wouldn't want to like voice a guest character. I cannot do that justice. But I would love to rewrite Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I actually just watched a few segments of that movie with my girlfriend and we were both laughing horribly. It was so bad. So I feel like I'd like to rewrite it, make it work better, and maybe help out as much as I can. I'm not a film writer either, but I at least could tell the team what direction to take with the movie and not make it just all fighting and bad CGI. From 777 Man, say that 3 times fast, opinions on Johnny Cage in the new era. I was honestly a little skeptical when I heard that they were removing his like weird energy powers and also made him an influencer and actor. But honestly, when it comes to gameplay and even the story mode, I loved him a bunch. I loved how they worked with him. I also liked his new gameplay. He's one of my favorite characters. I also love how he had this like fun bromance with Kenshi of all people. It just made me love them both as a pair. Overall, probably one of the best takes of Johnny Cage we've seen. From Miguel, top 10 favorite characters in the MK series. In no particular order, I'm gonna say it's Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Johnny Cage, Reptile, Noob Saibot, Cyrax, Melina, Nightwolf, Sonya Blade, and Raiden. A lot of it has to do with how MK1 revamped these characters or just my long-standing relationship with these characters as a whole. From the random Transformer Anima, can we get a Mortal Kombat Smasher pass list? Oh geez, why do you think me and my girlfriend did that recording session together? Stay tuned for that. From Real Arthur Morgan, out of all guest characters that have been released from MK9 to MK1, who shocked you the most coming into a Mortal Kombat game? Of all of the guests that have made it in from the past 12 years now, the one that surprised me most was Leatherface and MKX. It was the one guest character I did not see coming at all. I remember watching that trailer live and all I heard was that chainsaw rev and him run at Ermac and stab him. I was like, what? Leatherface is one of my favorite slashers, so I wasn't expecting it, but I also didn't know how he was going to fit in Mortal Kombat. So not only was I sorta excited, I was also sorta concerned too, like, oh geez, I don't know how this is going to go. But he's also one of the more fun ones I can think of. From the random bats, can you see Fire Lord Liu Kang in Injustice 3 as a guest character? Yes, I think Liu Kang is probably the most likely, next to Johnny Cage. They already used up Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Raiden, and they're probably the 2 biggest characters outside of the main 3 I had just mentioned. So when we get Injustice 3, guaranteed we're getting Johnny Cage and Liu Kang. Geo Plays asks, is there ever going to be an all MK Armageddon Fatalities ranked? You're funny. Red Belladonna asked the question, which video game character, fighting game or not, would you like to see as a guest in MK1? Now I already mentioned a couple in this ranking that I would love to see, but I've mainly avoided console exclusive characters, but if there's one that's like a dream that I want to see, it's Fulgore from Killer Instinct. When they were discussing the possibility of guest characters coming into MKX and there was a discussion that there could be console exclusive, Fulgore was the one where I'm like, that just works so easy. Just like make one of the Fulgore units fight in the tournament or just have one of them shipped out and fight there. Perfect. It's also a robot. You don't have to worry about like one of our mascots being murdered. It's just a robot that's gonna break apart. It's fine. It makes sense. Fulgore is also a very brutal character, so it works perfectly if you ask me. So if Microsoft is willing to let them lend a character, make it Fulgore, please. From XXLMT Facts, where would you put Omni-Man and Tremor's Fatalities on your MK1 rankings? And any chance of more Injustice content coming? Now when it comes to Omni-Man Fatalities, they're probably some of the better guest character fatalities we've gotten so far, so when I re-rank the guest finishers and re-rank all of MK1 finishers, they're probably going to be higher. Tremor, not super sure about that one, so stay tuned about that. Now when it comes to Injustice content, the only thing I feel I could talk about is maybe like stage transitions ranked and maybe do costumes ranked for that game. Stay tuned about that because I'm not sure how I'm going to revisit that one. That's not a no, but I'd love to try and find out another way. From SRSC4LZ, Fatal Blows or X-Rays. Personally, I like the X-Rays a lot more because they show like the deep impact that all of the moves do, whereas the Fatal Blows, especially in MK11, just showed like a heavy hit to certain spots. Sure, it's nice that MK1 has them breaking bones again, but they're a little short if you ask me. From the Map Man, a question that's been on my mind for a while. How do you make videos? I've been trying to make videos now and I want to make it work on my college schedule. How would I manage time playing games, writing scripts, recording VO, and editing all that into my college life? Some of my first big ranking videos were actually done while I was a student at college, and let me tell you, time management is super important, especially if you want to succeed in college. Personally, I waited until I graduated, or if there were some big breaks in my college schedule, such as like finals wrapping up, midterms wrapping up, so I could like kind of work on a video and do it. Some of these big videos that I worked on actually took up a span of a semester because I didn't have the full scope or time of what I wanted to do. I also just bounced around ideas and kept thinking over and over again, like, what do I do here? What do I do here? And mainly, I wanted to focus a lot of my time on enjoying the college life and focusing and passing all of my classes. Now, I'm not saying don't go into content creation as a college student. There probably was a different way I could have done it. Personally, what made it a little bit easier for me to pursue content creation in college is that a lot of organizations and clubs were shutting down because of the pandemic. So that gave me a lot more free time to focus on video editing, to focus on writing content, etc., etc. So my suggestion would be try and get the flow with your college schedule first. Find out how much time is needed when it comes to your study times, your academics, everything else, maybe like other extracurriculars, and then find out, do you have extra time to weave in your content creation schedule? And now when it comes to my editing software, microphone, and recording stuff, I do, for voice recording, I use GarageBand off my MacBook. I have a CAD microphone that I record off of, and when it comes to editing, I actually have an Elgato HD 60 frames per second capture card. If you'd like to talk with me more in detail about this, follow me on Twitter and reach out to me on my DMs. I'd love to talk to you more about this one. I really hope I was able to help you with that there. Lord Umbra asked the question, whose character arc did you like more in the MK1 story, Kenshi or Reptile? I liked both of these arcs equally, but the thing is, I'd say I was more excited and I was happier with Reptiles because of how much they changed this arc and how much they made me like the character. I already liked Kenshi as a character from every single game that he was in. Reptile was someone that I was losing interest in, so this game really like reeled me back with liking the character again. From Plurts, who's your favorite MK character that most people hate? This is honestly a hard one to answer. I guess this is one that I can say is my answer. Back when I first played MK Armageddon, I used to play as Moloch because I thought he was interesting, but I sort of like him, but I also don't like him, so maybe that's my answer. I don't know, I'm a little confused with this one. And now we have the opposite with I should help this guy. Least favorite MK character that everyone else loves. Ooh, I'm gonna get a little bit of flack for this one. I would say I don't really like Christopher Lambert that much as Raiden in Mortal Kombat. Don't get me wrong, I still like the character. I don't love him as much as everyone does. I do think that Christopher Lambert did a great job like remaking the character in MK11 though, but of all the characters who were readapted into live action, he wasn't my favorite. From Grimsheds, if you could have any Mortal Kombat game remastered, which would it be and why? Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, just right there. That game really deserves like a remaster or some port that needs to be put out on modern platforms. I would have so much fun playing this with friends on the couch once again. Make it happen, NRS. It's the one game that Ed Boon really wants to have remade, but he said it's also really hard to get the job done. And hearing that just makes me want to have this one actually remade or remastered in some way. It's one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games of all time, and it definitely deserves it. From Mr. Unpopular Opinion, if you had to bring back any forgotten character, who would it be? I do agree with your pick on Hydro. I would love to see him come back. It would be nice to have like another water ninja in there. However, Rain does kind of fit that mold, but I would like to see how they can make Hydro hydro different. From the band club, do you think you'll do any more MK costume rankings? Yes, this is actually one of the series I'm bringing back. The other day I announced that Melina and Raiden are getting costumes ranked, so stay tuned on the community tab for who should be coming up next. So yeah, I hope you're excited for that. From Church Arcade, how do you stay so nice in nature when being exposed to much horrific violence? I hate to say it, I'm kind of just desensitized to it. I guess that's what happens when you play MK3 when you're a little kid. From Ian Brennan, since 2021, what has been the one video you've made that you're the most proud of? Man, with like my editing style changing, my writing style changing, and just everything I've covered, the one I'm probably the most proud of has to be all Sub-Zero costumes ranked. That's probably one of my favorite videos because I have so much passion for the character. I like really cared about every point I was making. He's my favorite video game character of all time. There was a lot to cover. He has the most costumes in the entire series, so there was a lot of content to cover. There was my second take at doing all costumes ranked, and I think it really paid off, and it's actually the reason that I want to do more of it is after seeing how much I liked that video, it's like, I want to bring that back. So yes, all costumes ranked for Sub-Zero, probably the one video I'm most proud of. From the Four Musketeers, what's your opinion on all three of those holiday fatalities? Not on how much they cost, just the fatalities in general. Personally, I think they're harmless, they're fine, they're meant to be universal so everyone can do them. If I really had to score or rank any of them, they would probably be like mid to low because anyone can do them, but overall in execution, they're all still pretty fun. And our final question comes from Rainwaves. What would be a dream project for you on your channel? Probably one of the biggest dream projects I've thought about doing for the longest time was every Mortal Kombat fatality ranked. I've been thinking about how to do this for quite some time. I know the video would probably be like a couple hours long, but funny enough, it was actually a video I had considered doing before quitting YouTube back in like early 2021, right after Mortal Kombat 11's DLC had wrapped up. But I instead did all guest characters ranked, and then I did all Scorpion fatalities ranked, and look where we are instead. Maybe as like a big like anniversary for Mortal Kombat or something, or after MK1 closes out before Injustice 3 comes out, I'll do a video where I like rank all of the fatalities. But the next big project I want to do for this series, I've already started it with MK1, but I want to do more of the Mortal Kombat fatalities ranked by game. I want to start doing those in chronological order, so I want to do like Mortal Kombat 1992 fatalities ranked, MK2, MK3, and so on. Stay tuned for that, along with more rankings covering more fighting games. And that's my Q&A for the start of 2024. Sorry I wasn't able to answer every single question, but I want to thank the time that you all had for submitting a question. A lot of these were fun to break down and go through, and your support and participation means a ton. Honestly, thank you so much for everything that you guys do. 2023 was such a fun year. I got to go out and try out new content. I got to grow a large audience, especially with Mortal Kombat 1 coming out, and even started going to some conventions where I got to meet one of my first fans in person, which I have the picture right here. That was one of the most like fun moments I've had in my YouTube career, and I can't wait for 2024. Stay tuned for some more fun rankings covering Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Street Fighter, and more fighters in 2024. This year is all about breaking new ground and trying out new things. As always, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and share to show your support. My name is Nick, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Fight.